proud to have the Encompass team, Sohini and Pavitra, to take us through the activities they are doing. And maybe I leave the platform to them. Thank you very much for accepting the invitation and presenting your team, presenting your activities. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. I'm
Good
Pavitra.
morning.
Thank you so much. Firstly, we'd like to start with saying thank you. Thank you, sir, for giving us this platform, to talk about Encompass, talk about our journey. It's great, that we got this opportunity. So thank you so much for that. To everyone who's joined, our family, friends, everyone who's believed in us, thank you. Thank you so much. On a Saturday morning, I'm sure it's not easy. So, thank you for taking the time out. We'll start with the presentation. So while we start with that, what I'd like to first talk about is to introduce Encompass. So for us, Encompass is not an NGO. It's a way of life for us. It's what, our hearts really connect to, what we really believe in. Having said that, one of our key differentiators is that we do not connect with the word charity at all. Because for us, charity, the term symbolizes somewhere a feeling of superiority and inferiority, and that's just not what we are. So basically what we like to believe is about how we can spread joy, how we can, give people the light of hope through compassion, through love, and how we can actually build a bridge that connects, for the people who want to give and that many more people who really want to receive and who really have the need for it. How are we able to bridge that gap and, bring everyone together? So for us, our sponsors are not just a tick in the box about giving money. Our sponsors are connected. The entire team is interconnected because we share the pictures either on social media or privately. And that's how, we build the bridge. So we'll start off, we'll go to how, the journey all began.
So again, thank you so much for everyone to join on a Saturday morning. It's actually late night for a lot of people, with the time difference zone that we have in the US. People from Muscat have joined. There'll be people from Australia, US, friends, family, acquaintances. Trust me, this means the world to us. This is a memory for us, which we'll cherish all our lives. So thank you so much. Starting off with our presentation, before we really start with the initiatives, wanted to share a story, which is basically the ethos or the core belief for us at Encompass. It's a very famous story, actually. It's the starfish story. And I think a lot of us already kind of have heard it, know about it. It's a story which is so inspirational and so thought-provoking. And it is something that we at Encompass completely believe in. So I think I'll just quickly run through the story. So visualize this beach, and there is this little girl on that beach, and on that beach, there are millions of starfish which are stranded. The tide is about to ebb, and this little girl picks one starfish, throws it back into the sea, picks another starfish and throws it back into the sea. This adult who is watching her goes to her, and he laughs, and he's like, what difference will you make? Can you see the number of starfish that are lined up? So what's the difference that you will really make? She looked at the adult. She picked one starfish. She threw the starfish back into the sea. She looked at him and said, I made a difference to that one. And that's what we believe in Encompass, making a difference to even one person, giving hope to that one person. And that's the ethos and that's the core belief of Encompass. From now on, the slides that you see are slides which are actually about our initiatives at Encompass, how we started, one-on-one individual stories which really touched our heart and will touch your soul. They're stories of love, compassion, and hope. So how did it all start? How did Encompass really start? 2014, it was the winter months in Bangalore. My house help, she was consistently falling sick. So I got a little frustrated, and one day I asked her, I said, why are you falling sick all the time? And she looked at me and she said, Didi, I sleep on the ground with my family. I feel cold. I looked at her and I said, so why don't you have a blanket? Keep yourself warm. And she looked at me again and said, I don't have a blanket. Now that thought just left me speechless. I ensured that she had her blankets on that particular day. But when I went to sleep at night, the thought that there would be so many people shivering in the cold, struggling just to be warm. Now, as human nature, you automatically think, okay, yeah, so what? What can I do? There are people, it's their destiny. They don't have a blanket, and I can just leave it at that. Another thought could be, how can I make a difference? There are so many people. What can I really do? I feel for them, but what can I really do? But that's what we need to change. And that's what the starfish story is all about. We can make a difference, even if it's to one. So with that thought, I put up a post on Facebook, thinking like-minded people might join in. I estimated, say, hopefully 10 blankets, max to max 10 blankets. But it was amazing. Within that day itself, within our friends, we managed 100 blankets. And we went out in the night, late in the night, and we went out on the streets of Bangalore to distribute those 100 blankets. What met our eyes, ladies and gentlemen, broke our hearts. Single ladies, old ladies, abandoned by their family, living on the streets. It was heartbreaking. But those 100 people, those 100 smiles that we managed, changed our lives forever. The blanket drive is something we continue since 2014. And in fact, it's expanded so that one thought expanded. And now we do this drive in Pune as well as in Delhi during the winter months. Now, obviously moving on to our next initiative, being December, I think the favorite festival for kids is Christmas, obviously because of Santa. Now, that Santa is only for a certain section of people. Yes, agreed. It's a very Western culture, but happiness. So if you see what's written on the screen, God put Santa Claus on earth to remind us that Christmas is supposed to be a happy time. So why should some kids experience this happiness, whereas some kids not experience this at all? With that particular thought, we said, let's go out to the schools where these kids from the daily wage worker families come together. So if you see the pictures out here, it's called Christmas Cheers, and it started in 2014. We again, through our sponsors, collected gifts, collected toys, and we went out to these schools with our local Santa. We danced, we made merry, we sung songs, and we gave them these gifts. Trust me, those eyes, those amazement, the awe that the kids have is something that we on-ground volunteers can only cherish. So if you see the pictures, what again just started as a thought, a very small thought for few kids, just expanded. And this same thing is now done in Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, and Bangalore.
So after we saw the success of Christmas, we thought, why not celebrate all festivals? Why differentiate? Why do only a Christmas for kids? What happens during Diwali? What happens during Eid? So with that thought in mind, and to just keep the essence of the festivals alive and bring cheer, bring joy to as many people as we can, is when we started the initiative for both Diwali and Eid. So this is what we do during Diwali every year since 2015. We pack a box of sweets, a box of snacks, and new clothes. So the guys get a shirt, the women get a sari, and we go out on the streets. We go out on the streets, we meet the homeless people, and we spread the joy of Diwali. So this is again done across all the 4 cities every single year, where we just spread that warmth, the festivity that all of us spend definitely with our families and loved ones, but we take it a notch higher and spread it, to as many people as we can and we can meet. Similarly, during Eid, we actually get freshly cooked biryani. We go outside the mosques and we distribute the biryani to whoever needs it. Now, here again, we do not discriminate. So anyone who really needs that packet of biryani, of that warm food during the festival, and they get it. So this is what we've been doing year on year. Christmas since 2014, the year later, Diwali and Eid. And that's what the festivals mean to us right now, to spread, the light of joy and warmth and share that, and through that connect, everybody on a common platform. So moving on to the next initiative, what you see over here is basically, the toys that you see these kids holding is what some people just wanted to throw away in a trash that probably goes to our landfills, or we don't even really know exactly, how that gets disposed of. So we said, if there is something which is in a good condition, why not, distribute that to anyone whom it can really benefit or it can bring a smile to. So that's what we've been doing. This happens on an ad hoc basis, as in when we feel the need, we see the need on the ground, or as in when we, depending on summer, winter, etc. So this picture talks about all the toys that we've distributed, the toys that were discarded by children because they outgrew them, but it actually means the world, to some other child. So similarly, along similar lines, we did something called the Shoe Drive initiative. Now, the idea behind this was very simple. We asked people to donate their used shoes, footwear basically, which is in good condition, so that we can go take that and distribute that to people in need, to give them a respite during summer. People who are braving the harsh summer without, anything on their feet. Now, what happened that particular year kind of stumped us, because the response again was overwhelming. We had a lot of people who came forward for donation, but we saw two ends of the spectrum during this initiative. We had people who donated brand new shoes and footwear where the price tag was on, so they just not even opened it. But on the other hand, people used this as an opportunity to just discard their trash. So there was nothing left in certain pairs of footwear that we could even deem as usable by anybody at all. So while we took the good condition shoes that we had and we distributed it, we came across few slums and we saw so many children, so many of them in one of the slums in Whitefield. So we took that a notch higher, and we actually got funds through our sponsors again and got brand new shoes and slippers for all the kids in that particular slum. So in that particular year, 250 children didn't have to go barefoot and brave the summer. They had shoes and slippers to call their own.
Now, when we went to these schools, the slum schools, we saw the kids sitting on the ground, bent over, studying. So I guess all of us, no matter what age we are in, that fond memory of having our own desk at school is something we cherish. So when we looked at these kids, we thought, why not get them their study tables? So again, as usual, we went back to our sponsors with this idea. And as usual, it was phenomenal to see the response. So 3 schools in Bangalore have these study tables, which the kids call their own. The next initiative that we have, the Home for the Abandoned. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the word abandoned itself makes you feel very low. So imagine the feeling of being actually abandoned. This is a home where there are people who've been abandoned. Parents have abandoned their kids. Kids have abandoned their parents. Families have let go of family members. Trust me, it's not the best environment to be in. When I went to this home, what really shocked me was the environment. You're dealing with a lot on an emotional level. You don't feel loved. But then the environment that you're staying in, you could probably just say that it was a roof on their head. Maybe that's the only positive thought you could feel. That home has 70 people, ladies and gentlemen, 70 abandoned souls. How did we make their lives better? So we are associated with this home since 2013. When I saw this home, trust me when I say this, it was dark, it was dingy, it smelled of urine. I was scared to even enter one of the rooms to see the condition because I was scared. I saw the beds, they had massive holes. They were broken. And I asked the caretaker, I said, how do these people sleep on this bed? And he said, we just put a cloth and we kind of manage. No fans, it's hot. How do they manage? It's buzzing with mosquitoes. My God, that place was scary. So what we started off was ensuring that we got them beds, we got them mattresses, we got fans, mosquito nets, we got them a TV quite recently through sponsorship, we got them washing machines through sponsorship, we got them, the mixer grinder, the electrical, so that they can have their dosas and idli batter ready. Small little things, celebrating birthdays, ensuring that they know there is love, there is compassion in the world. And trust me, that's all that they need. People out there, just one sentence, one word of compassion is all that they need. And we at Encompass feel dignity, a life of dignity, is something everyone deserves. And that's exactly what we are trying to do for the members of this home. So there are freshly cooked meals that are sent every day through sponsorship. So if you can see the pictures right now, this is meal time where everybody gets together in that passage and they all have this warm meal together. Moving on. Hope is the only thing stronger than fear. Well, how true is that? When someone has a lot of fear in them, and if you give them that ray of hope, that's the tool they need to fight their battles. They will fight their battles on their own. You just need to be that ray of hope. This story is about Uncle. He's from the old age home. We know him as Uncle. I don't remember his name, but he's Uncle for us. When we met Uncle, so the caretaker came up to us and said, can you help? I said, with what? And he said, Uncle needs to be taken to the hospital. For what? He lifted up his pants and just above his ankle, it was a big gaping hole. I could see the flesh. I could see worms. The smell was so bad, I wanted to cover my nose, but out of respect, I kind of just didn't do that. I looked at that injury, I looked at Uncle, and I just didn't know what to do. We took Uncle to the hospital. There is a hospital called Vaidehi Hospital in Bangalore. It's known to be on the cheaper side, cost-effective surgeries. But they have a rule. 24/7, an attendant has to be there. Uncle has no family. Now let me tell you a little bit about Uncle. Uncle was working in HAL in Bangalore. He met with a fire accident during his work tenure. So the skin grafting was done on the leg. Unfortunately, while he was recovering, he met with another accident that chipped off part of his leg. While he was in the hospital, his own daughters told him that if you keep coming back to the hospital like this, how will we have the money to get married? They did not complete his treatment and they left him at this home for the abandoned. This uncle had no hope left in his eyes. He was waiting for death, and that is something he's personally told me. He said, I am waiting for death. I have nothing left to look forward to. When hope vanishes from your eyes, that's what you think about. We took Uncle to this hospital. We said we have to get him on his feet. Now, like I said, 24/7, an attendant is required. And in a situation where we are working, we are all from the corporate industry, we are working, how do we manage? At the home, there is nobody who is stable enough to be a 24/7 attendant for him. The doctors kind of refused. They said, no, sorry, you have to have a 24/7 attendant. We were like, what do we do? What do we do? The lady that you see in the center picture, trust me, you see an angel right there. That's Dr. Aprajita from Vaidehi. She heads the surgery department, the general surgery department. They said, try your luck with her. If she can bend the rules, we can do something about it. When I went into her room, she was screaming. She was screaming at the interns. She was screaming at the patients. And I'm like, oh boy, how is she going to listen? And then when she looked at us and she said, yes, what do you want? We narrated the story. She looked at uncle's leg. She screamed at him even more. And she said, how can you be surviving with this kind of an injury? We told the doctor about his background. She said, fine, I bend the rules for you. 3 days in a week, just be here so that the medicines are up to date. And that's what we did for 1.5 months. What's amazing is this doctor, when she went on her rounds, she would ensure that the first patient she meets is uncle. She would ensure that the interns and she sit with him for some time, given the busy schedule that doctors have. And she sat with him just to have a talk because she knew that he doesn't have family. So ladies and gentlemen, that's a story of hope. That's a miracle right there. And if you see the last picture, that's uncle standing on his feet. Today, if you meet uncle at the home, he smiles. He has hope because he knows there is love. He knows that someone is there to take care.
So next we move on to the story of Varshini. Now for Sohini and me, Varshini or Varshu as we call her is the child of our heart. She is really, really special to us in more ways than can be described. Now back in 2014, when Varshini was there at the home, what had happened? She was abandoned by her family, by her own mother and father. The reason, the so-called beauty, the idea of beauty that we all live by. Well, she was so-called special kid, and they didn't really want to be saddled with this special kid. They had another kid, so-called normal, and they said, it's easier to abandon her, where probably somebody would take care of her, but they didn't want to be associated with her. When we initially met Varshini, there was no hope left in her. There was nothing. Behind everything, all said and done, she's a child who deserves as much love and happiness as anyone else. So over the course of the next 3 years, Sohini did everything possible in terms of treatment for her. Took her to 3 major hospitals. So she has a very rare genetic disorder. Her brain development is not, complete. She has polio, and she also has cataract, one of the eyes where she was operated for. So she has just about partial vision. So when we did all that, and we somewhere asked ourselves, what is it that we really need to do? What can we really do for her? And the idea was simple. Let's just give her moments of joy, moments of happiness. So we did small things. She loves pizza. She loves ice cream. So we tried to incorporate joy the best way we could. We started taking her out for pizza, for ice creams, and she really loved it. But guess what? The people at the restaurants or at the shops would actually cringe. We'd see mothers who'd cringe, people who would come closer to take a look and just so that they could shun her again. And while we can all say and debate that probably she can't understand, she can't see, what difference does it make? We all do understand at a soul level. And she did understand. We could see her cringe. We could see her go back into the shell. So we did what we could. We used to bring her home whenever we could, give her the moments of joy, give her what we could in terms of love. And what we got in return was just something else. Her smile could brighten up an entire room. Did we really have it in us? Did we have the patience in us to let that smile blossom? Is a question that we asked ourselves. She had a person at the home, someone who really took care of her as her own. And that made all the difference while she was at the home, because she was loved, she was taken care of. All her needs, physical, emotional, were met. When she cried as a child, there was somebody to comfort her. When she was happy, there was somebody to share that happiness. And we did what we could. Earlier this year, fortunately, her family's circumstances changed. So her dad had passed away a few years ago in a freak accident, but her mother got remarried. And the new husband could not fathom this girl being left in a home when they had a family environment with 2 children of their own. So they took her back into the fold this year. Yes, for Sohini and me, it was gut wrenching. It was not easy. The fact that we used to go to the home and see her every single time, and suddenly one day she's not there, was not easy for us to accept. But then we understand that God has his own plans, and he has much better plans than probably what we know or what we can see. So right now, Varshini is at home, and Sohini and I do keep in touch to ensure that she is taken care of, she is loved, she is in that family environment. And we are grateful for the opportunity, for the years that we had, the time that we had to share, that we could share the warmth and the love and the joy that every child really deserves.
Now, this story is very, very close to my heart. Now, why should hope only be for humans? Why not for animals? This word hope is something which encompasses every living being. Now, if you look at the first picture, ladies and gentlemen, that first morbid picture is of Bruce, a street dog, yes, a street dog where most of us feel life is worthless for them. So this picture is what I got on the rescue group on WhatsApp. I opened WhatsApp, I see the picture, I'm like, oh my God, why have they sent a picture of a dead puppy on the group? And I close my WhatsApp. After a while, I open my WhatsApp again and I can read messages saying too far, too far, too far. And I'm like, too far? Is this puppy still alive? I look at the distance, the location, and it shows me around 50 minutes. I was at work. I left. I left everything and I rushed. When I reached the site, this is exactly how I saw him. His one eye was literally hanging. He was oozing in blood. He was almost dead. That 1.5 journey back to the hospital is something which probably will stay with me for life. When we reach the hospital, the doctors look at this little life and give me 1% chance of his survival. Ladies and gentlemen, 1% chance of survival. They said, let's see how the night goes. And I'm like, okay, let's see how the night goes. Bruce went into coma. That's the first time I saw a dog go into coma. So you see the second picture, he's in coma. Seeing him breathe was all the hope that we had. So I used to go at night to the vet, to the hospital. I'd taken special permission. And I used to just sit with him. And one fine day I told him, I said, Bruce, if you want to live, I'll be there for you. That's the hope I gave him. Not knowing whether he's in coma, he can hear me. That's what I said, and I promised him that. And oh boy, the next day he woke up. And it's been a journey. So if you look at the previous slide and you look at the pictures, Pavitra, if you can just go to the previous slide. The third picture is Bruce out of coma. That picture where you see him tied up in a diaper, and with the neckband, and the picture next to it. So yeah, but Bruce had to be discharged from the hospital because he was too weak. He could get any infection. Now I have a little puppy whose brain's damaged. He's getting fits. He's completely paralyzed. That's a life with me. And the doctor says, take him. I work for 13 hours. I didn't know what to do. Medicines 5 times a day. I requested my company then. So my company was not known to be a pet-friendly company or a people's kind of company. But trust me, it's amazing how when I went to the MD and I went to the head HR, they said, bring the pup. So Bruce came to me he came to me to office. So if you see that picture, I'm carrying Bruce to office. He used to be under my desk. Obviously, that didn't last long. I had to leave Bruce alone. 12, 13 hours, a paralyzed puppy with the neck band was left alone. Now, look at the fighting spirit and look at the miracle. The guy was fully paralyzed, all 4. The best of doctors said, Bruce will not stand. And if he does, it's going to be a very long duration. You have to be patient. Well, of course, I will be patient. But this miracle where he stood up in 1 month, if you see the first picture, that's the first time Bruce stood up on all four. He used to try. Every time I used to get him out of the crate, he would stand up, he would fall, he would stand up, he would fall. And we would just go through this whole exercise time and time again. Till one fine day, he stood up on his own. Within a week, he was walking. When he started walking, we realized he's blind. One eye is damaged, the other eye he can't see. He was banging into every object in front of him. And I'm like, oh my God, he will never see. And my father said, you cannot give up on him. Never say never. If he could walk, I'm sure he can see. You do your best for him. And then let's leave it to God. And that's what I did. And oh my God, another miracle. Bruce, after probably say 2 weeks, he started seeing. I don't know how it worked. Trust me, it's a miracle. It's something even doctors cannot explain. But yes, Bruce started seeing with that one eye. Once he started seeing, I sent him for training. So if you see the picture where I have a hand in the my hand is in a bandage, Bruce is there in a training center for 3 months. And I'm like, you have to be normal, Bruce. You have to behave like a normal dog. And then my father comes visiting and he tells me one thing which stayed with me. He said, Bruce has a world of his own. He's special. Don't try to make him normal. And that kind of sunk in. And I said, yes, he is special. Why am I trying to fit him in the normal, term of what I have as a dog? So yes, I got him out of training. They said his brain is degenerative. He will only get worse, but he is only getting better. So if you see that last picture, that's a very recent picture of Bruce and me. And that is hope. You give hope to an animal, and this is what you get. They will fight. You just have to be there. That one hope, that little love, that little compassion. Bruce fought his battles. I did not fight. The pain that he went through, he did it. But that hope that I gave him, I think that is something that you can see in the picture. Now moving on to something which is again very relevant, and we at Encompass believe that just because someone's living on the street, let it be a human, let it be an animal, doesn't make their life worthless. Especially for our animals on the street. They are going through a lot. We as humans, I believe in one thing. Yes, we are humans. We have the power. We have the power to do a lot of things, maybe the most powerful on earth. And that's how God made us. But as they say, with great power comes great responsibility. We at Encompass feel it's our responsibility to nurture the living being around us, to nurture what's there around us, to be there for the weak, to be there for the vulnerable. The pictures that you see are all from the street. They have been run over. They are sick. Where do they go? At least a human can talk and say, I'm sick, take me to the vet, take me to the hospital. What does the dog say? What does that monkey say? If you see that picture of the monkey where his chest is ripped open, the birds that you see, where do they go? They just wait for death. But if you really have to open up your hearts and you step out, they talk to people who listen to them. That's what we believe. You just have to open your eyes and see. So something in Encompass that we as individuals do, we are into animal rescues. We help street dogs, street animals. We help them with their medication. We take them to the vet. We ensure they stabilize and we leave them back. So we are also into feeding. So especially during COVID, it's increased a lot. But we ensure it doesn't take much to just give one chapati to one feeding soul. And trust me, when I say this, they will never forget.
that same note, we move on to an initiative that's really, really
Pavitra,
close.
would you like
Yes,
to take a break sometime when you are comfortable?
sure. So we'll finish this and take a break, sir, or we can
It's
take a
up to
break
you.
now?
You can decide whichever way, wherever you wanted to stop. Comfortable. No problem.
Okay, we thought another 3, 4 slides and then we'll take a break.
Okay, fine.
Oh, thanks. So this is what food distribution at Encompass is for us. It's serving meals with dignity. We believe that everybody who needs a hot, warm meal deserves to get just that. So that's how this whole initiative started in 2017. It first started in Bangalore when there was a slum very close to the old age home, where there were a lot of daily wage laborers. Now, trust me when I say this, I don't think we understand, I don't think we are able to comprehend the actual plight of daily wage laborers who are there all around us. If they do not or they are not able to work a particular day, it means that they probably do not have a meal for that day. And there is a lot that they deal with as well in terms of domestic violence, in terms of domestic abuse, much, much more than what we probably see or even can comprehend. And in that, a lot of children, a lot of women, a lot of elders really take the brunt. So that's how we started this whole food distribution drive. The idea was to tie up with a restaurant, a small time restaurant who could really, do with the business. And they prepare food exclusively and only for these people. This is then taken out and distributed to the people in slums. Now, in 2018, we expanded to Delhi and then to Mumbai and Pune as well. So, for the last 1.5 years, every single day, which is excluding Sunday, there are approximately 500 people, 100 people in each slum, and the people at the old age home who have a plate or a bowl of warm food that's made just for them. From a numbers perspective, it's probably 3.5 lakhs people that we have reached out to in this entire 3 years. But what we kind of believe in is the smile that we get back, the hope, the joy that we see on their faces. Hunger is something that we probably have not really had the need or the chance to really deal with. But when we see people hungry, when we see kids hungry, it really breaks our heart. And this is what we've been able to do through Encompass. Give them that food, that nourishment that they really need. So when they go back to sleep, they sleep with their tummy full and with a smile on their face. So moving on to another on-ground initiative, which was our first rescue relief work on ground. This was the Kerala flood relief that happened in 2018. Now, what happened back then was something that we had all heard about in the news. We saw what was happening. We read the news. We knew a lot of organizations who were helping. But yet again, we heard a lot of news of the supplies that were being sent, not really reaching the people who needed them. We read stories about people and areas that were flooded where help was just not going. And that's when, during a very casual conversation, when Soini and I met, we said, what can we do? And almost instantly we said, let's just go there. Let's go and do what we do, connect people so that we know that the sponsors who trust us and who believe in us and give us the funds for whatever they need, it reaches out to the right people. Within approximately half a day, the way people came forward was just amazing. We had a doctor on board. We had people who knew the local government, the MLAs in Kerala, and the team came together in less than half a day. We had 7 trucks full of supplies that we had taken. And this was distributed to the 13 slums that we actually went to over there. In a 2-day period that we were at Kerala, we set up a medical relief camp. And what was that? It wasn't anything great. It was people who had to leave their home in an instant without a second thought. People who were on BP and sugar medication, but who just didn't have the medication with them. Children who were suffering because of cold, because of fever, and basically because of the flood that really happened. So that's what we did at each relief camp that we went to. We ensured that the supplies were given basis what their need was. It was not just a set of supplies that was given at each shelter. So some of them came back and said, hey, you know what, we have all the dry food we need, but we really need blankets. While another camp told us saying that, hey, we don't really have any ration at all. Can you help us with that? So this truck that you see in the picture, we went to the areas which were flooded, where help was not going. And that's how we managed to get across supplies to them. Again, what we saw was something which was a great learning experience for us. The people over there at the relief camps had built a family all of their own. They knew everybody. They had probably met a couple of days earlier, but they knew their family history. They probably knew everything that was relevant. And there was so much of warmth, there was so much of hope. And all they needed was probably that one blanket, that one medicine, that one bag of rice to get them going, to help them understand that there is somebody who cares for them. There is somebody who is looking out for them. And that's how the entire 2018 Kerala flood relief operation really panned out.
So before we take the break, we'll quickly talk about the recent flood relief work again in Kerala. So Kerala was hit with the floods again in 2019. Now there is something that I would like to mention here, since it's a public forum. Really would like to thank our families. It is not easy. When media just splashes images which really scare you, and to let your children out there, go there, because you know that there is a need. So I would really like to thank our families for the support that they give, especially when we are working with disaster related work. Let it be COVID, being on ground volunteers for COVID, or let it be the flood relief work that we do. So thank you. Yeah, so 2019, we had to go back to Kerala. Why did we go back? Because we could not forget 2018. We could not forget what we saw there. So this time we didn't have a medical camp, but we went with 500 kits of relief material. We got in touch with the local guys, and we got to know that the Adivasis, the tribal guys in the remote areas of Kerala, have absolutely no help. Shops, houses, everything washed away. And there is nothing left with them, and there is no help. So we got 2-3 trucks, we distributed the kits, and we went into these interior parts of Kerala where we gave them this little packet of hope. Again, we repeat ourselves. It's not much, but it's the hope. It's the love and the compassion that really gives you the tool and the strength to let you move on when situations around you are not very conducive. Bihar floods happened, and we couldn't be there on ground. But we raised funds. We got in touch with the local guys. We ensured, that whatever material is there reaches, the people who are affected. And, volunteers who are there on ground, it's a risk. It's a risk that we take. And why do we take this risk? Because we believe at Encompass that whatever our sponsors give us, it could be 10 rupees, it could be 100 rupees. We value that money, and we ensure that it goes directly to the people who need it. And that is why we ensure, no matter what situation it is, no matter how much we are risking our lives, we will be there on ground to ensure that that person who needs it gets it. So I think, yes, with this, before we go on to a very heavy topic of being on-ground volunteers of COVID and sharing COVID stories with you, I think we can take a break.
We'll take a break, yeah.
So come back in about 10 minutes maximum. I will time it and then call you back.
Sure.
Yes. 2020, life as we all knew it probably just turned, and we were all left wondering as to, what's happening. So initially when, just before the lockdown was in place, or when it was just a couple of days into the lockdown, we did see a lot of well-known, reputed organizations, NGOs, who were distributing kits to families. So we helped get, through our sponsors, we helped get funds for that. And we partnered with them to ensure that the kits reached the people who really need it. We also had a social worker who helped us be on ground. And this time, I think we did hesitate, because we said it's not our risk. It's about who we might risk, knowingly, unknowingly. So that stopped us for some time from being on ground the way we used to be. And we were doing a lot of coordination. Now, one day what happened was a friend just mentioned something which really shook us. And that kind of changed everything. So we were, as Soni mentioned earlier, we were doing a lot of animal feeding. We were doing it through our own initiatives, through organizations like CUPA, who are helping with meals. And this lady in JP Nagar was an active feeder. So she used to feed hundreds of street dogs. So she was taking food one day, and she saw 3 children walk up, and they said, "Can you give us that food?" So she smiled and she said, "No, this doesn't even have salt. It's just rice and turmeric." So, she just put that newspaper down for the dogs. And before she turned, the kids actually came, took that newspaper, and they started eating that food. These were children who were probably 5 or 6 years old. And when she asked them, she said, "What's happening?" They said, "We haven't had a single meal in 3 days. We are not able to bear hunger anymore. We really need food. It doesn't matter what it is. We just need food." I think that became the turning point for us. Soni and I realized that the need to be on ground was probably more than ever now. So yes, we did take all the safety precautions that we could. And that's how we started our on ground work for COVID. Soni, you want to talk about the COPS and the initiative?
So we all know there was a lockdown. Movement was completely restricted, and we couldn't really take our cars out. They would be impounded. What do? We need to be on ground. We cannot sit at home. We have to be there. So I just happened to meet one of the cops during feeding the dogs at night. And I mentioned to him saying that we want to do this. Can you help us with the pass? We had tried for a pass online and we got rejected. So we really didn't know how to be out there on ground. And we all have that little fear of cops, don't we? You just don't know how they might behave with you. So with that fear, I went to the police station the next day, which is in my area. And I met the sub-inspector and inspector. They heard about what we do, and they gave us the vehicle pass. Not only did they give us the vehicle pass, from then on, for the next 3 weeks, where we were doing freshly cooked meals and distribution of the kits, to date, we are in touch with the cops. The cops ensured they came out with us 6 hours a day, 4 hours a day when we were out there. The police was with us just to ensure our safety, just to see that we are safe. We met the ACP, and he had a conversation, and he told us that, this is not something what police needs to do. We do not have to be there distributing kits. That's not our job. But why do we do it? We have to do it because in the given situation, if these guys don't get food, the crime rate will increase. So yes, the side of the cops that we saw was amazing. The humane side. There could be lathi charges. There could be people who misuse the power. Won't deny that. But the side that we saw of these guys was absolutely beautiful. And that's something that we wanted to bring to you. Being out there, helping people, risking their lives. So there is a whole set of them that's doing every day, day in and day out, just so that you and I are safe.
So with them, we continued both our kit distribution as well. For a 3 to 4 week period. We distributed freshly cooked food. There was a kitchen in Whitefield who actually used to cook food early in the morning. It was a small family of a husband, wife, and his child who would actually cook, pack these packets, give it over, hand it over to us, so we could go out and distribute it to them. And then while we were doing this, we saw something that surprised us. At a time when we were told about social distancing and how to maintain a distance and not gather in large crowds, we saw lots and lots and lots of people gathered at the police stations. And we wondered what was happening. And that's when the term migrant workers was coined. Again, not a term that we associate with, because these are people who've always been there around us. They are the folks who've built our houses that we stay in, who've painted our houses, who probably have driven us from one end of town to the other, and who've probably done everything possible just to ensure that we have a good life. And suddenly they were called migrant workers. All they needed was just one thing. They wanted to go home. And that's all they were asking for. Now, while obviously the government and the officials did their job, and I understand it was just not easy, the numbers that we were talking about were staggering. So while this was happening, the trains did start. So while the trains started, we said, okay, now these people are able to go home. So that's fine. Now we can concentrate on the people who have chosen to stay back here, or the ones who are from this area and who really need help. And yet again, there was another incident that came to light. Most of you may have read about it. So it is a 2-3 day journey for these people to reach home. And the train services, the special Shramik trains, are not like the regular trains that we know and we are used to. And in the entire journey, at times, there was just absolutely nothing that these people got. Not a drop of water, not a packet of food, not even a packet of biscuit. There was this story of a lady in one of the stations who'd actually passed away. Why? Only because of hunger. Not because of COVID, not because of anything, but just because she couldn't get her meal. And the blanket that she had around her, the end of the blanket, there was a small child, barely 2 years old, who was actually playing with that blanket. The child didn't really know that the mother was no more. He was still continuing to play, in probably the hope that his mother would get up and feed him or probably take care of him. But the mother was long gone. Why? Only because of hunger. So that is how we started what we called as the support for the so-called migrant workers, or basically the people who are going home by the special trains. We decided to pool in together and bring a lot of dry food that they could carry back on their journey. And most importantly, a bottle or two of water so that they just are not thirsty, because that was summer and it was just not an easy time. Now, we had a lot of organizations, that a lot of NGOs, small time NGOs, established NGOs who came together. And we realized that all of us were probably doing the same thing. So this is a collaboration. This is the unity that we really saw during the COVID time, especially for that 1.5 months when the trains ran. So these were the key NGOs that we worked with: Compassion in Action, Gift of Life, Community Initiative, and the Enablers United. Now, what happened at this time was again a new learning for us. Our funds, when I say our, it was not just Encompass, but across all NGOs, we all ran out of funds. Why? Because the economy, as we all knew it, hit all of us, not just a particular segment, but every single one of us. So with that shift in economy, our regular sponsors had already done over and beyond what they could. New sponsors were coming, but it was just not enough for the scale at which the problem really lay. And when we thought we were at the end of the road, where we probably couldn't continue this initiative anymore, we got to understand that it was not the end. It was just a bend, a fork, a new direction that we needed to take. A friend who stays in one of the communities in Whitefield reached out to me and said, hey, I know this person who's probably doing something or wants to do something. And I know the work that you guys have done. So I'm just going to connect both of y'all. Now that connection saw us through 1.5 months of this entire train initiative. It was communities from Whitefield, Bellandur, and all over that came. People who cooked food in their homes. They made rotis, NRIs, people who probably didn't really know what a roti was, learned how to make this from their maid, from their house help, and they started making this. Why? Just to ensure that one person could have this meal and they didn't have to go hungry. So through this entire journey, what you see over here in this picture is the actual reality at one of the processing centers. So the process was long. People were herded into these processing centers where there was a lot of ticketing that was being done, health scans and basic scans that were being done. And then they were moved on to the buses, which would then take them to the trains and then finally home. And in this entire transit period, there were just people who were herded together. A hall that could probably house about 1,200 people at best would see 3,000 people at any given point in time. We saw children while we were on the ground, children with deadpan faces. They probably didn't understand anything of what was happening. Maybe they were just too tired and didn't really know what to look forward to. And that is how we were able to reach out a packet for each of them, a packet of food, which was probably dry snacks. It was roti, buns, biscuits, water, chocolates for the kids at times. And the way the entire initiative came about, organizations who came forward to sponsor, it could be chocolates, it could be other essential items. And this helped tide us through the entire 1.5 months, where we ensured that every single person who was traveling back home and who was a migrant worker or a daily wage worker had a packet of food. They didn't have to go hungry. They didn't have to die of hunger. They could go home just like anyone deserves to go home with dignity. And
Pavitra,
this is,
there is a question. Are you
right.
involving students and teenagers in your initiatives during normal period?
Yes, we are. Yes, absolutely. So during COVID, we've been very careful, mainly only from a safety aspect. So when people did want to volunteer, we were not, kind of putting vulnerable people at risk. But then, yes, anyone who wants to support and volunteer is more than welcome. So this has been our COVID journey. We started with the kit distribution. We started with fresh food distribution. It was 16,000 people, approximately 4,000 families who actually benefited from the kits that we gave them. And there were 7,000 packets of food over the 3 to 4 week period that was actually distributed. The number of people who travel by train, it was 1 lakh people who actually traveled, and who together with the community initiative, with all the NGOs together, we were actually able to support. Now, another very strange thing came to light during this time. There's a home called Cheshire Home in Bangalore. They have 2 branches. And the Whitefield branch is just down the road from where I stay. Now, these are not organizations where we have really supported massively, except for a one-off initiative. And I was talking to sister very casually. And because I used to see in my community group the need for certain items like rice, dal, etc. So I just happened to ask sister, and what I heard shocked me. We realized that the regular sponsors of these established trusts and homes had either just dropped off the radar or they were just not able to support any longer. So these people, there are 35 people, all elderly, physically challenged people in that home, and they were struggling for probably basic ration, and even how to pay the electricity bill. Again, Soni and I got to know of 2 other homes in a similar way, one which is very close to her place and one is in Sarjapur, where the home in Sarjapur has 90 children, all of them who are mentally challenged. The cost to run such a home is massive. Again, what was the crunch that their regular sponsors were just not able to support them. So we've been doing what we can. We've reached out as and when we needed help in terms of provision. It could be weekly provision at times, it could be monthly provision, it could be just specific items that these homes need. So that's something that we have started from June, which is still an ongoing activity. And through our sponsors, we reach out and we ensure that these people are able to get what they need.
All right, so that brings us almost to the end of the initiatives. So COVID obviously is an ongoing initiative along with the others that we have spoken about. We would like to end with some quotes that are very close to our heart. So if you see this one, our kindness, what a simple way to tell another struggling soul that there is love to be found in this world. And that's something which is the need of the hour. Compassion right now is the need of the hour. We need to step out of our shell. We need to be that hope for one person, one soul. If we just look out, there are too many people struggling. There are too many animals. There are too many people, too many living souls. And I think if all of us just get together and make that change for one person, be that hope for one person. I can just give you an example. It's about making a difference to one person. So maybe I have just 10 rupees. What can I do with that? But if I have that 10 rupees to spare and I see someone on the road and I offer him a cup of tea, I think that triggers hope, love, compassion, and creates a chain reaction, which we cannot understand, but it does. When we have our meals, to take that one extra packet of food and go out on the road and give that fresh food, which is just for that person and not a leftover, that creates that love, hope, and compassion. A lot of times, people say, what can we do? How do we start? I really don't think there's a dearth in our country of people who need help, who need hope, who need that love, who need to feel inclusive and not that they are not part of the society. I think it's high time that all of us can get together in our own ways. We are not saying join Encompass, we are not saying give us the funds, but what we really hope through this presentation is that all of us, when we go out there, we open our hearts and we see what's around us and we can be that hope for that one person. When we started the initiative, it was just one person, it was one thought. But today, we are across 4 cities with so many volunteers. Our volunteers are here, they've joined us from Delhi, from Mumbai. So it's just about that thought which needs to be put into action, a thought which needs to have an action and not just leave it as a thought. So these are the spaces that we are currently in, which we've spoken about. So won't go through it, but these are the spaces. So let it be the food distribution, the festivals, COVID, disaster management relief work, the old age home, animal shelters, rescue. These are our trust members. So we have 5 trust members, founder trust members. Pavitra, you've already met. There's Rashmi, who's also there on this meeting. Nidhi Khurana, Anushri, and myself, Sohini. So we are the 5 founder trust members currently of Encompass, with a lot of core volunteers across the city of Pune, Bangalore, Delhi, and Mumbai.
One question, Sohini. There is, are you doing any services in Chennai under your initiatives?
No, ma'am, we are not right now. So these are where we have the volunteers. But again, if there is something where we can form a team, this is all something where teams have got formed looking at the work. They've come ahead. So there's Manish, Tanu, who are there in Delhi who lead the Delhi team. There is Rekha, Neha, Pooja who lead the Mumbai team. There are people in Pune who lead the team. They're all like-minded people who said that, okay, whatever initiative is there, let's get together. And the ethos remains the same. That's all that we require. The core ethos of Encompass, of just that, to again explain, when Pavitra said charity is a very, it's a word which kind of gives you a superior feeling. And that's something we don't believe in. We don't want someone to feel inferior. And that's why we say charity is not what we do. We give with a space of a lot of love and compassion. And that makes the difference of giving and receiving. So yes, if somebody believes that ethos and really wants to come together and form a team with Encompass, we will be more than happy.
So we'd like to end today's session with this quote, this famous Snoopy quote that I'm sure all of you must have seen. In today's world with COVID, yes, there is a lot of fear that we all deal with. Notwithstanding, it might be different, but yes, there is a lot of fear in each one of us. We go back to our quote, how can our trust and our faith be greater and stronger than our fear? If we are able to bring in that positivity, that ray of hope within ourselves, and then reach out and create a chain, a link through the light of love, compassion, hope, joy, and whatnot, I'm sure all of us can definitely look forward to a better world.
So if anybody has got questions, they can ask. So if you have questions,
I was just asking for the video that has been recorded right now so that we can pass it on in our groups, and also share with people that, if there are like-minded people, they can join in. So if you can help us with the link of the video that we can share in our own groups as well, that will really be helpful, because we might find someone somewhere, like what Sohini was mentioning, and who would want to come forward to this.
We will be uploading the video in the YouTube, and the YouTube link will be shared to everyone who has participated.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Okay.
I just want to wish you all more power to you, all of you. I think you're doing an amazing job, and
somebody can give a feedback, or they can also ask questions. Any one of them.
Thanks,
Fine.
Bhargavi.
Please leave your feedback in the feedback form. I have given the link in the chat.
Thanks, Arindam.
Please ask questions. Any questions from anybody? Thank you. Wish you all the very best, and continue to do the good job, and let the poor people get the help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for giving us. Thank you so much.